No dry scones here. These lemon blueberry sourdough discard scones are melt in your mouth, so tender, fluffy, and all of those flaky layers. It's everything you want in a scone, and the sourdough discard is the secret to the fluffiest, lightest, and most incredible scones. Not dense, not dry. You're gonna love this recipe. I just printed out the recipe from my website, amybakesbread.com. These are my lemon blueberry sourdough discard scones, and they are incredible. They're perfect for anytime in the spring when you want a special treat, or if you're having a brunch or Easter or anything. When blueberries are in season, even in the summer, we love these scones. They make for the perfect like weekend breakfast. I love to make them for my family. We often will do like a Sunday breakfast before we go to church, just like they put a smile on your face. Anyway, you're gonna love them. This is how I use sourdough discard to make the most incredible scones. Let's get started here. Okay, I have two bowls here. One bowl is for my dry ingredients and one is for my liquid ingredients. That's where the discard is gonna go into, is in those liquid ingredients. So I'm gonna set that to the side because we're gonna work with the dry stuff first. I always like to use a kitchen scale, so I've got my bowl on my kitchen scale, have my recipe. We're gonna start by adding our flour to the bowl. Now I like to use an all-purpose flour here. You can use a freshly milled soft whole wheat flour. It's really good. I've used that before too. And I really do love a freshly milled soft whole wheat. One of my favorite flours. But this recipe calls for an all-purpose flour, though that substitution I've done and it works well. Okay, I've got my flour. Now we're gonna add our sugar. The scones themselves are not super sweet. It's the glaze on top that makes them more sweet. So the scones are kind of like a mix between like a pie crust and a pastry, but they are not at all dense. They're flaky, they're soft in the middle. They're so good. A lot of times people will say, I think that scones are dense, and I'm like, well, you haven't tried scones with sourdough discard then, because they are incredible. All right, so we just do about 65 grams of sugar. That's not even half a cup of sugar for these scones. They get their rise from the baking powder, not the discard. So we need to add in about 15 grams of baking powder. It's about a tablespoon. That's where these scones are gonna get their nice flaky layers and rise from, is the baking powder and the butter and the cold discard kind of all works together for that magical bite. Okay, then we're gonna add in a little bit of salt, not too much. I use unsalted butter in this recipe. If you were gonna use salted butter, you may not even need to add any salt to this dough. Give the dry ingredients a good fluff together. I just like to use a fork for this. We just kind of fluff them all together. Now we're going to grate up our butter and add that straight into this flour mixture. And then we're gonna add the blueberries straight into here too. So that's what we're gonna do next. I just take a whole stick of butter. You can use frozen butter, works really well too, but very cold or frozen butter. And we're just grating that until it's all in little flakes. Now you could use a pastry cutter to cut this into the flour mixture, but I just find this to be the easiest way to do it. And I find that these like triangle graters are just easy to clean, so I like them. I use this when I make my croissant loaf. If you haven't made that yet, you need to go make that. It is so good, and it uses this gorgeous grated butter. So we're gonna add our grated butter right into our flour. Get all of it in there. This creates those like flaky pockets all throughout your scones, and that's exactly what you want. And then we're gonna add in our blueberries. And the reason I put the blueberries in with this flour mixture is because it will help coat the blueberries so that they don't like all sink to the bottom of your scones. So I like to add them in with the flour mixture here. Now, the key to good scones is keeping everything cold. So if, you know, it's gonna take you a while to mix up the wet ingredients, you could put this in the freezer or in the fridge for a little bit just to keep it chilled. If you were using cold discard straight from the fridge, probably don't need to do that at all, because the cold discard is one of the keys to these scones that keeps them extra flaky and light and tender, because it keeps it chilled. It keeps the butter chilled, which is one of those keys. So that's one of the reasons I love, that's kind of the secret to sourdough discard, I think, in scones. I'm gonna go ahead and add in our blueberries. Now you could also use frozen blueberries. If you did, you're just gonna mix them right in here with the flour. I do quite a bit of blueberry because I love the blueberry flavor in here. 250 grams. I cannot wait for blueberry season. These are 10 times better if you use fresh blueberries, but still, they're incredible with ones from the grocery store too. Okay, just get that nicely mixed together. Then I'm gonna set this aside and we're gonna mix up the wet ingredients. We're gonna start with our sourdough discard. It is nice and runny. We're gonna do 100 grams, and using it chilled from the fridge is what's really going to help these scones be light, tender, and like the perfect texture. So I definitely recommend that. We're gonna add in our eggs. Our other egg. I always like to mix up the discard with the egg or the liquid right away, just to get it all nicely combined in there together. Okay, so I've got now the egg and the discard in here together. We're gonna add some, let's see, milk, just 20 grams, and then heavy cream. I have a recipe on my website for these cream biscuits. It kind of reminds me of these scones, and they're so good. So heavy cream can also act kind of like butter in biscuits or scones, and it just makes them so flaky and tender, and that's one of the keys to this recipe too, is using that heavy cream in here as well. Okay, we're gonna do a little bit of vanilla bean paste. I would use vanilla extract, but I couldn't find it right now, so vanilla bean paste works too. Both are delicious. And then we're gonna do some lemon zest. You could also add lemon juice into the scone dough if you want to. We're gonna get most of that lemon flavor, a little bit from the zest, but we're also gonna get it from the lemon glaze that we're gonna make while the scones bake. Just get as much of that yummy lemon zest in there as possible. Lemon blueberry is one of my all-time favorite flavor combinations. Okay, I think we've got everything. Mix this up. Now it's time to combine the wet and the dry ingredients together. So here we've got our dry scone ingredients. We're gonna pour in the wet ones. I'm just gonna use the fork and go around, just combining, like very lightly moistening all of this dough together. One of the other keys to scones is you don't wanna overwork it. Kind of like with pie crust, you don't wanna overwork pie crust. Same with scone dough. You want it to just lightly come together. And I'm gonna use my hands in just a minute in here. If you think that it is a little bit too dry, you can always add another little bit of heavy cream, just a little tablespoon or so. But this looks pretty good. If you follow the weight measurements, you should be pretty good. You may have to add a little bit more flour if you're using frozen blueberries, just because that moisture can sometimes let out. And be careful, because see how I've already popped a blueberry in there? Okay, that is going to make it a little bit more moist as I'm working, so you want to kind of work carefully, trying not to pop the berries as you go. They will pop a little bit, it's okay. All right, so we got this mostly moistened together, and I am sticking it on my parchment paper here. I'm gonna give this a few more folds, just to get it really nicely moistened. You can see how much this is kind of like pie crust. If you have made my sourdough pie crust, oh my goodness, go make it if you haven't. It is so flaky, so delicious. All right, and then we're gonna pat this out into a circle. Just go around with my fingers. You can see that it's starting to stick to me just a little bit because of those blueberries. that are opening up just a bit. Let me give this one more turn here, so I don't have all those blueberries on the top that are poking out. All right. So I'm just patting this into about an 8-inch circle is the goal. I had to wash my hands because I had a little bit of sticky scone dough on there and was making it hard to shape. Okay, I'm just going around, making it into that pretty circle and just patting it out. You want it to be pretty even. We're gonna take our bench scraper, which this is a kid one that we've had for years, and just cut straight down. We're gonna make 8 large scones from this. Okay, let me show you the layers in here. See those flaky layers? Don't they look amazing? All right, we just go ahead and separate them so they're all together here on this baking sheet. Now at this point, you could go ahead and freeze the scones. You could move these to a different baking sheet if you wanted to, but I like to use the same parchment paper on these scones, so I'm just leaving them like this. All right, don't they look beautiful? So you could stick them in the freezer if you wanted to chill them a little bit more, or you can bake them right away, especially if you've used that cold sourdough discard. So we're gonna pop them in the oven, high preheated oven, 425 degrees. They're gonna bake probably about 15 minutes, and then we'll glaze them up. Into the oven they go. While those are in the oven, I'm gonna whisk up my lemon glaze, and then we're gonna glaze them right when they get out of the oven. We may let them cool for 5 minutes or so, but then we'll glaze them and break into one. The lemon glaze starts out with powdered sugar. We're adding in some more lemon zest, a little bit of heavy cream. I'm doing a touch of vanilla because I like it. And then some freshly squeezed lemon juice. Don't get the seeds in there. I also like a little pinch of salt. And we're gonna whisk that together. If it feels a little too thick, we can always add a little more lemon or a little bit more of the heavy cream. You can adjust that based on your own preferences. So I think I'm gonna add a little squeeze more of lemon. Looks perfect. I like a nice dollop of glaze on top of every scone. So it'll be great. Beautiful. Look at those berries bursting. Oh. They look so good. Scones are out of the oven. Time to add on my glaze. Oh, a lot of times, you can drizzle it like this, or I'll just put like a big dollop on top and just glaze the whole scone like that. Either one works. Whichever gives me the most glaze per scone, that's what I usually go with. But sometimes it's kind of fun to do the little drippy scones. All are great options. What do you think? I think they look scrumptious. I can't wait to taste one. Oh my goodness. I broke this one open. Guys, that middle is so tender. Oh, wow. Here's the deal with these. They're crispy on the outside, just a little crunchy, which gives them the texture, but so soft in the middle. And those pops of blueberry and the bright lemon glaze, oh, better than a bakery. You are going to love these lemon blueberry sourdough discard scones. I hope you try them.